Welcome back to our channel.
Hi everyone. I am Lisa.
And I am Eric. Whether you're learning English as a second language or just brushing up on your grammar, we're here to help simplify everything for you.
Let's dive into today's topic and make English simple. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is to fail. Then we will continue with belong to someone and to throw away. Then under the weather. And the final one is spill the beans.
So, seems that 2 verbs, 1 phrasal verb, and 2 idioms, right, Eric?
Yes, Lisa, that's right. Let's start with the first word. The first word today is to fail.
To fail.
To fail. To fail is a verb that means to be unsuccessful for a goal or pass a test. For example, I studied hard but still failed the exam. It means he was unsuccessful in the exam.
Another example could be, the company failed to meet its sales targets this year. This means this year's sales is lower than planned.
It's important to note that to fail is often followed by an infinitive verb, like in the phrase, failed to do something.
Great point, Eric. Now let's see how we can use to fail in a conversation.
Hey Sarah, how did your driving test go?
Oh, I failed. I was so nervous that I forgot to check my mirrors before changing lanes.
Don't worry, failing is a part of learning. Just keep practicing and you'll pass next time.
That's a great example of how to use to fail in a real-life situation.
Yes, Lisa. All right, listeners. Today we have a quiz. It's time for our interactive quiz. Lisa, are you ready?
Absolutely, bring it on.
Okay, here's the scenario. Your friend just found out they weren't accepted to her dream university. What would you say to her using the word fail?
I might say, I know it feels like you've failed. But it happens sometimes to many people. Keep studying, and you'll find success somewhere else.
That's a great response. Now let's try another one. Imagine you're a teacher, and one of your students failed a test. How would you encourage them?
I would say something like, failing this exam doesn't mean you didn't study at all. It is an opportunity to find your mistakes and do better next time. Let's work together to help you succeed.
Wonderful advice, Lisa.
Thank you, Eric. Whenever you fail at anything, you can find your mistakes and problems, and then you can improve them to be successful the next time.
I completely agree with you, Lisa.
Okay, Eric, let's have a look at our next word.
The next word is to belong to someone.
To belong to someone.
To belong to someone.
Belong to someone is a phrase we use to express that something is owned by someone else. It shows possession.
That's right, Lisa. It's important to note that belong must always be followed by to when discussing who owns something. For example, if I found a watch, I might ask, does this watch belong to someone here? Another example could be, that coat on the chair belongs to someone in our group, but I'm not sure who.
Thank you for pointing out the usage of to after belong and for the examples. Now let's use it in an example dialogue. Imagine Anna, a customer, and Jake, a waiter, in a cafe.
Excuse me, I found this phone on my table. I think it belongs to someone who was sitting here before me.
Thank you for letting me know. I'll ask around to see if anyone is missing a phone.
Great, it looks expensive. I wouldn't want someone to lose it if it belongs to them.
Definitely. I appreciate your help. I'll make sure it gets back to its owner.
That dialogue was perfect for showing how belong to someone can be used, Lisa. Anna was really responsible with the phone she found.
Yes, take care of things that belong to other people. It's a sign of good behavior. Eric, have you ever found something that didn't belong to you?
I have, actually. Once I found a backpack in the park. I checked with people around me until I found the owner. Finding and giving things that belong to other people makes you feel good.
Absolutely. And it's also a good way for everyone to try to return found things to their owners.
Agreed, Lisa. And it's simple to use it. Just remember the structure. The item plus belongs to someone. It's very easy.
That's a great summary, Eric. Thanks for explaining this phrase to our listeners. Let's move on to our next word. What's the next word, Eric?
The next word is to throw away.
To throw away.
To throw away.
To throw away is a phrasal verb that means to dispose of something, usually because it's needed or wanted anymore. For example, I'm going to throw away these old magazines.
That's a good example, Lisa. Here's another one. Don't throw away that shirt. You can donate it to charity.
Nice example, Eric. It's important to note that throw away is a separable phrasal verb, which means you can put an object between throw and away. For instance, you can say, I'm going to throw these old magazines away.
Thanks for pointing that out, Lisa. Now let's see how we can use to throw away in a conversation.
Hey, Sarah, what are you doing?
I'm cleaning my closet and throwing away some old clothes.
Really? Can I take a look? Maybe I can find something I like.
Sure, but don't throw away anything without asking me first.
Okay, I'll be careful. By the way, are you going to throw away this jacket? It looks nice.
That's a great way to use to throw away in a situation. Eric, do you have any questions about the phrasal verb or the dialogue?
Yes, I do. In the dialogue, Sarah says, "Don't throw away anything without asking me first." Can you explain why she uses anything instead of something?
Good question. In this case, anything is used because Sarah means all the items in the closet. Something would be used if she means a specific item.
That makes sense. Another question. I'm curious about the difference between throw away and throw out. Can you explain?
Throw away and throw out are similar and can often be used instead of each other. Throw out is more commonly used in British English, while throw away is more common in American English.
That's interesting. It's always good to know the differences between British and American English.
I agree, Eric. I hope our listeners find this explanation of to throw away helpful and can start using it in their own conversations.
Definitely. Remember, everyone, to throw away means to dispose of something you no longer need or want.
Okay, Eric, let's proceed to the next word.
The next word is under the weather.
Under the weather.
Under the weather. Under the weather is an idiom that means feeling slightly ill or not feeling well. It's usually used for non-serious illnesses, like a cold or a headache. For example, I'm under the weather today, so I might stay home and rest.
Another good example is, Sarah won't be coming to the party. She's feeling a bit under the weather.
Good example, Lisa.
How about we listen to a sample dialogue where under the weather is used, Eric?
Great idea. In this scenario, Tom and Mary are co-workers talking at the office.
You don't look very happy today, Mary. What's wrong?
I'm feeling under the weather. I think I caught a cold over the weekend.
Oh, that's too bad. Maybe you should go home and rest.
I might do that. Being under the weather makes it hard to focus on work.
Definitely. Take care of yourself, Mary.
That was a good use of under the weather, showing that it's a polite way to tell someone you're not feeling well. Eric, have you ever used this expression?
I have, Lisa. Last month I felt under the weather for a couple of days. It was just a cold, but I stayed home to rest and recover. How about you, Lisa?
Yes, a while back I used it when I had a sore throat. Telling people you're under the weather is a gentle way of saying that you're sick without going into details.
It's definitely a useful phrase for our listeners to know, especially when they need to explain that they're not feeling well in a simple way.
Exactly. And remember, everyone being under the weather is usually temporary, so it's often just about taking a short break to get better. Okay, Eric, we have reached our last word today.
Yes, Lisa. The last word today is spill the beans.
Spill the beans.
Spill the beans. This is a fun phrase we use in English when someone tells a secret they shouldn't tell. It's like accidentally saying that it should be hidden. For example, I was trying to keep the surprise party a secret, but my brother spilled the beans to my mom.
And I'll add another example. Sarah spilled the beans about the new project and now no one is excited.
Those were great examples, Lisa. Now, let's move into our example dialogue. Today, we have Tom and Jenny. Tom accidentally spills the beans to Jenny about a surprise party.
Hey Jenny, are you excited about the weekend?
Yes, but I don't have any plans. Why?
Oh, I thought you knew there's supposed to be, never mind, I shouldn't say anything.
Oh, come on, Tom. You can't just leave me wondering. What were you about to say?
Well, I kind of already started, so I might as well spill the beans. There's a surprise party for you on Saturday.
Tom, you totally spilled the beans. Now it won't be a surprise.
I'm really sorry, Jenny. I didn't mean to ruin the surprise.
That dialogue really shows how spill the beans can be used, doesn't it, Eric?
It sure does, Lisa. Tom didn't mean to tell the secret, but he said it anyway. That's exactly how you use spill the beans.
It's interesting how we use that phrase, isn't it? Spilling beans would make a mess, and telling a secret can make a mess of things too.
Exactly, Lisa. Do you think it's easy to keep a secret, or do you sometimes accidentally spill the beans?
Oh, I try my best to keep secrets, but sometimes it's tough, especially if it's good news. What about you, Eric?
I'm the same. I think when it's happy news, it's harder to keep it a secret because you want to share the joy.
Yes, Eric. To keep happy news secret is not very easy.
Well, that's all for Spill the Beans. I hope our listeners found this helpful and fun. Remember, if you want to keep a secret, don't spill the beans.
Okay, listeners, that's all for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found our explanations helpful and easy to understand.
Remember, practicing and studying these words can make a big difference in your English. Don't hesitate to replay this episode if you need a refresher.
Be sure to like and subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We love helping you improve your English, one word at a time.
And if you have any questions or words you want us to explain, drop us a comment. We're here to help.
Until next time, keep practicing and stay curious. Thanks for listening to Simply Explained English.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Hello again. I'm Lisa, and the ever-enthusiastic Eric is joining me. Together, we simplify English for you, one word at a time.
Hello, everyone. It's always exciting to help you expand your vocabulary. Today, we have some interesting words to explore.
Okay, what are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is modest. Then we will continue with outgoing. And to convince, then to stick to. And the final one is on cloud nine.
Let's start with the first word, Eric.
The first word today is modest.
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 Great choice, Eric. Modest has two meanings. The first means not large in size or amount or not expensive. For example, you could say, they live in a fairly modest house considering their wealth. In this sentence, modest describes the house as not very big or fancy.
The second means someone who does not want to talk about or show their abilities or success. For example, he's very modest about his success. He rarely talks about it. This shows that he doesn't brag about what he has done. Today, we will focus on this meaning. Now, let's move into a sample dialogue where we'll use the word modest a couple of times. Imagine two friends talking about another friend's new job.
Did you hear about Sarah? She got a new job.
Yes, I did. But she was so modest that she didn't even say anything, even though it was a high position.
That's Sarah. That's how she always acts. Even though she has a big office, she says it's quite modest.
True. She's really not a person to show off. It must be a nice place, though.
Yeah, she deserves it. She always works hard, but stays modest.
That was a perfect use of modest, Eric. How do you think calling someone modest changes how we see them?
Using modest generally gives us a positive view of someone. It makes a person seem more likable and respectful because they don't talk much about what they have or what they've achieved.
That's so true. And it's a good character, right? Being modest is important in many societies.
Absolutely, Lisa. And it's good to be modest, not just about personal success, but also about what we have. This shows that modest people do not give much importance to material things.
Yes, and it's good to be modest, but sometimes it's also okay to celebrate your achievements. Would you agree with me, Eric?
Yes, I would, Lisa. Sharing your happiness or success with others isn't about boasting or talking much about your accomplishments. It might be just about sharing your happiness with others. Modesty and pride can go together.
That's a thoughtful perspective, Eric. It's important to find that balance. Listeners, do you think you are modest about your achievements? How do you react when you succeed at something?
Great questions, Lisa. Let's hear what our listeners think. So, our viewers can share their thoughts with us in the comments section below.
Okay, Eric. Let's continue with our second words.
The second word is outgoing.
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 Outgoing is a great word to describe someone who is friendly and enjoys meeting and talking to other people. It's the opposite of being shy.
Right, Lisa. An example sentence could be, Marta is very outgoing. She always makes new friends at parties. This means Marta is sociable and likes interacting with people.
Another example is, because he's outgoing, he enjoys social events more than staying at home. This shows that outgoing people like being around others.
Let's use a sample dialogue to show how this word can be used in conversation. Let's say two co-workers are discussing organizing a team event.
I think Jerry should plan the team trip. He's really outgoing and he knows everybody.
That's a good idea. Jerry will definitely make it fun. He's great at bringing people together.
Absolutely. He's the most outgoing person in our office. It'll be a great event with him leading it.
I agree. Let's talk to him about it today.
That dialogue really shows how the word outgoing is used in a natural setting. Eric, do you think being outgoing is always a good thing?
That's an interesting question, Lisa. Being outgoing can be very helpful because it makes it easier to make friends and work well with others. However, sometimes people might need quiet or alone time too, even if they are outgoing.
That's true, Eric. It seems like being outgoing helps in social situations, but everyone might need some time to themselves. What would you say to our listeners who might be shy and want to be more outgoing?
I'd say start small. Try saying hello to someone new or join a group where you share interests with others. Being outgoing starts with small steps.
Great advice, Eric. And remember, everyone is different, and that's okay. Whether you're outgoing or shy, you're just fine the way you are.
Exactly, Lisa. Okay, now let's explain our next word. The next word is to convince.
To convince.
To convince.
To convince is a verb that means to make someone believe or agree to something by explaining or arguing. It's about getting someone to agree with you. For example, you could say, he needed to convince his parents to let him go on the trip. This means he had to talk to them until they agreed it was a good idea.
When using to convince, it's directly followed by the person you are trying to convince. For example, convince someone to do something. Like I've been trying to convince Jean to come with me. Sometimes we can also use this form. Convince somebody that. For example, it's useless trying to convince her that she doesn't need to lose any weight.
That's a great explanation, Eric. Shall we listen to a sample dialogue using to convince?
Yes, we will. Let's jump into a sample dialogue where to convince is used. Imagine two colleagues discussing a new project idea.
I really think this project could improve our workflow, but I need to convince the boss.
What's your plan to convince him?
I'm preparing a presentation with all the benefits. I hope that will convince him.
That sounds like a good plan. If anyone can convince him, it's you.
That was a perfect example of how to convince can be used in a professional setting. Jack will try to convince his boss with a presentation.
And it shows that convincing someone often involves giving good reasons or evidence.
Speaking of which, Eric, have you ever had to convince someone about something important?
I have, Lisa. I once had to convince my team that changing our strategy was necessary for success. It took some effort and a detailed presentation, but eventually they were convinced.
That sounds like a challenging but rewarding experience.
It definitely was. How about you, Lisa? Any convincing tales?
Well, I once convinced my family to adopt a pet from the shelter. It was not easy to convince them, but now We can't imagine life without our dog.
It's amazing how a little convincing can lead to such positive changes.
Indeed. And we hope today's explanation about convince was clear and easy to understand for our viewers.
I hope so, Lisa. Okay, the next word is stick to.
Stick to.
Stick to.
Stick to is a phrasal verb that means to continue doing something, to follow a plan or a rule, or to keep to a particular path, decision, or action.
Exactly, Lisa. For instance, you can say, it's important to stick to your schedule if you want to finish work on time. This means you should continue following your plan without changing it.
Another good example is, she decided to stick to her diet even during the holidays. This shows she continued following her diet plan without changes.
If we use a verb after stick to, we should use ing form of the verb. For example, I stick to eating healthy, or I stick to studying 3 hours every day.
That's a useful tip. Now let's use stick to in a sample dialogue. In this scenario, we have Carla and Jim discussing their new fitness goals.
I see you're going to the gym quite often, Jim. How's it going?
It's going great. I'm trying to stick to my workout plan this time.
That's good to hear. I know it's hard to stick to the plan, but if you do, you will reach your goal.
That was a perfect example of how to use stick to. Jim uses it to talk about maintaining his efforts.
Yes, stick to is a very common phrasal verb. It is used when talking about working out, studying, new habits, or any other daily routine.
How important do you think it is to stick to plans in real life, Eric?
It's quite important, Lisa. If you have a good plan and stick to it, you usually succeed. But it can also be useful to change the plan when necessary. So, the best option is to stick to the plan and be flexible when needed.
I agree, Eric. It's all about finding the right balance. Being flexible when needed, but sticking to our decisions when necessary, can bring success in many areas of life.
That's a great perspective. Viewers, think about this. Have you ever had to stick to a decision even when it was tough? Or did you change your plan according to new situations?
We'd love to hear your stories and how you handled these situations. Okay, Eric, let's move on to our last word.
The next word is on cloud nine.
On cloud nine.
On cloud nine.
On cloud nine is a wonderful idiom that means to be extremely happy or delighted. It's like feeling you're so happy you're high up in the sky. For example, after getting a promotion at work, she was on cloud nine for days.
Another example is, he was on cloud nine after the birth of his son.
Let's see this idiom in action with a sample dialogue. This time, let's listen to a conversation between two friends, Paul and Rachel, about a recent event.
Rachel, how was your art show last night?
It was amazing, Paul. I felt like I was on cloud nine the whole evening.
That's fantastic to hear. Your paintings must have impressed everyone.
They really did. I sold several pieces and received so many compliments. I'm still on cloud nine, thinking about it.
I'm so happy for you, Rachel. Congratulations.
Rachel uses on cloud nine twice to express her happiness about her successful art show.
Yes, she is extremely happy about her art show.
Eric, I'm curious about the origin of the idiom on cloud nine. Do you know where it comes from?
I'm not sure, but I think it might come from the idea that clouds are high up in the sky, and the number 9 is often linked to happiness or success. So, being on cloud 9 means you're at the highest level of happiness.
That's a good theory. It might be true. Eric, have you ever been on cloud 9?
Oh, many times. When I completed my first marathon, the feeling was incredible, and I was definitely on cloud 9. And the second one, when we opened this channel, I was on cloud 9 again.
I remember that day. I felt the same way, and I was extremely happy too. And now I am also on cloud 9 because our channel has been growing.
I agree, Lisa. I hope it will grow more.
I hope so, Eric. Okay, I hope our listeners find this explanation of on cloud 9 helpful.
Remember, everyone, on cloud 9 is an informal way to express extreme happiness or joy. That's a wrap for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found our explanations helpful and that you're leaving with new words added to your English vocabulary.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. We're here to make English simple and fun for everyone.
Thanks for tuning in and keep practicing. Remember, every word you learn is a step forward in your language journey.
Until next time, take care and happy learning.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.